All right, so I've got a little bit of a last minute video here. I just got version 12.6.3 on my car about 2 weeks after getting version 12.6.1, up from 12.5.3. It's hard to keep track of all of these different version numbers. I am unfortunately using my Apple Watch as a microphone right now. The Apple Watch Ultra actually has a great mic on it, so let's see how this works. I just don't have the regular microphone that I usually use. And I'll tell you what, I had absolutely great experience with 12.6.1. So moving here to 12.6.3, there are some things that I hope are addressed. Just to give you a little bit of information right now, kind of about the drive that we have going on. We are driving down the shore with a quick stop at the supercharger on the Farley Express Plaza. So we're getting a little bit of like some neighborhood back roads driving right now, and then we'll get some more highway driving with a couple of interchanges as well. So this should be about a 20-ish minute long video, and then once we finally get into the highway where it's just driving straight, that's where we'll pretty much cut it off. Now right here we have a stop where the other lanes of traffic don't stop. It's a pretty nice move through. We might encounter a detour up here as well. Not so sure. I know that some of these roads are closed. But yeah, this is some pretty slow driving here just because we're on these back roads driving through neighborhoods. This turn up here is an utter nightmare. I'll tell you what, I'll be sitting here trying to make a left-hand turn for, during rush hour traffic, sometimes 10 minutes, no joke. There could be a huge line. So here we kind of have an unprotected left where we're making a left turn. Oh, well, see, the road is closed to the right, so it's a little bit of a cheat code. There's pretty much nobody coming because this road is closed. So that could have been a lot more eventful if there was much more traffic going up and down this street, as there usually is. Now, for me, if I was going to be doing any sort of driving or using full self-driving, this is like the last time I'd be using FSD. I personally hate using full self-driving on all of these back roads driving through the neighborhoods just because it can do stuff like this where it's completely slowing down. Now, that was a pretty nice right-hand turn there, even though there was another car kind of oncoming looking to make a left-hand turn as well. And this drive so far has been fairly smooth. One of the things that really irks me driving on these back roads is all of the potholes. And so I'm usually trying to swerve and dodge the potholes. It's a little bit difficult with the Model Y Performance going over these bumps because of the tires and wheels that I have on it, as well as the suspension. Just the car being a little bit lower and the suspension being a little bit more tight. Nice slowdown there for the speed bump. Making a left-hand turn here. So why don't we quickly cover 12.6.1. It's kind of coming to a stop here, even though it doesn't need to. That was a little bit of a rough turn. It should have just gone, honestly, right through that turn without stopping, but it kind of thought there was a stop. Also, now we're driving way slow. We're driving 17 and a 25. We should pick it up here a little bit. So let's go over some of my problems that I had with 12.6.1. The first of which that I'm hoping is, seen when we jump on the highway is the fact that it was hugging the left line. So whenever you were driving in the lane, it would almost be like right on top of the left line in some instances. In fact, there was times where I was so far over that the car thought that it wanted to go and actually make a left-hand merge into the other lane. This guy is going to let us go. Let's see. Is the car going to know that? Yeah, okay. The car is squeaking out. It's coming to a stop. Okay. The car wants it to be completely open for it to go and make a right-hand turn here. That was a nice move there. So it seems like it knows as the car is coming through, like let's see that other Tesla there, as the car was coming through, and now it's slamming on the brakes. Oof. So this is some pretty rough driving here. Like I have literally 10 or 20 feet that I can continue to move up. I'm going to do it. I'm going to press the accelerator here because nice turn there. Okay, so I can't really comment from version to version from 12.6.1 to 12.6.3 being here on these roads in Haddonfield because I hadn't had a chance to use it older version. But I'll tell you what, like any time that I've tried to use full self-driving on back roads through neighborhoods, it's just never been good. Like it's just never been a fun experience or an enjoyable experience. Like I would have rather done all of that, and even this road now with that pothole that the car just willingly went over on my own, actually manually driving. I know that as of recent, Tesla has said that they want to try and release full self-driving as a paid service, so you can hail a Tesla. But with these little issues, I just don't see how it's feasible. With the speed issues, with the like stuttering, it's something that just leads to an overall poor experience, in my opinion. And especially if they're trying to use full self-driving within city limits, let's say down in Austin. I don't know. It just seems like it's so far off. I've used like Waymo cars in the past out in San Francisco, and of course they have their issues, but honestly, that whole experience was fairly nice. Like, I didn't feel like it had some of the issues that Tesla's full self-driving has. Now, I'm of course not on the newest version. I'm still back on version 12, while some of these cars with hardware 4 are on, version 13, for example. But for me, being back here on 12.6, being on what I would say is the newest version for my hardware, I just can't see there being an unsupervised full self-driving coming anytime soon with absolutely nobody behind the wheel. So let's go over again, as I've continued to be interrupted here, my thoughts on version 12.6.1. The biggest issue that I had was the car hugging the left line, especially when I was on the highways. This led to a lot of issues where I was too close to cars, where when I was actually driving and passing vehicles, if there was like a 3-lane highway and if I was in the middle, the car would be hugging that left-hand line so much that it would think that I would actually want to merge into the left-hand lane. So it made a lot of these merges when it shouldn't have. That was by far the largest issue that I saw when using full self-driving. There was a couple of other issues that I had, like speed. So for example, I had full self-driving. Oh man, I hope it doesn't hit this curb. Oh, it was so tight there. I don't know if you saw there on the screen, but it was so tight to clipping that curb. That is always a very tight turn there with cars, especially sitting on the other side, and I'm super protective over the rims. I don't want to have any curb rash, so whew, that was close. The speed is also an issue, so I actually just did a full drive from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan with my car and then back. So, I mean, gosh, that road trip was, about 2,400 miles, and I used full self-driving for most of it. I mean, full self-driving handled a lot of the drive on 78. There was a lot of stuttering there, like the car wanted to throw the brakes on, and now we're slowing down even more. So that drive was handled predominantly by full self-driving, and it did a great job. I mean, when I was on 78, kind of doing a more windy, weavy highway through Pennsylvania, I had full self-driving on the entire time with no issues whatsoever. I mean, honestly, it was a great experience being able to sit there and let the car handle absolutely everything from supercharger to supercharger. We've got a yield here. The car does a good job yielding, but slams on the brakes. So it came to a complete stop there when it shouldn't have. I'm hitting the accelerator here because I don't want to be caught there. So, okay. First experience on 12.6.3 hasn't been great. I'm not going to lie. Hopefully it picks up here on the highway, throws a turn signal on immediately, merges us over. We are on the hurry profile, so it should continue to merge us over. I do have to say that after upgrading to 12.6, the highway driving has just been stellar. I mean, highway driving for me on this version has made me actually want to use full self-driving when I'm on the highway. For example, if you look here at the drive that we're going to be doing, where it's literally just hammering on the Atlantic State Expressway, and then after that, continuing on the AC Expressway and down the Garden State Parkway, this is a scenario where I honestly would probably have just continued to drive on autopilot, because I want to just maintain in my lane. If I want to adjust my lane, I can go and hit the turn signal so that it can get me over. I have found that my experience on autopilot has been better when I'm on the highway than it has been with full self-driving, but honestly that has changed since being on 12.6.3, or I'm sorry, 12.6 in general, so even back when I was on 12.6.1. My biggest issue is just the fact that the speed will not go the top speed that I want it to. So for example, I've got a car passing me on the side. I've got the car in front of me driving faster. The cars on the right are driving a little bit slower, but they're not in the passing lane. But for me, I've got my speed limit set to 85, and even when I'm on a completely empty road with nobody around me and it's going completely straight, I find it struggles to get up to the maximum speed of 85 miles per hour. So it seems like the maximum it's ever topped out when using full self-driving for me is 80 miles an hour. I'll go and try to push the accelerator to bump it up to 85, take my foot off the accelerator, and then I notice that it creeps off of 85 and brings me back down to 80. So even though you've got your maximum speed set to 85, it doesn't seem to want to do that full speed, which, is kind of just a minor complaint. Obviously, there are some roads out there that have speed limits of 85 miles an hour, and if you can't do the speed limit, well, obviously that's going to be an issue. But for the roads around here, the maximum speed limit can be 70 in Pennsylvania, so I've had no issue doing over 70. This is a scenario where I wouldn't have my turn signal on. The car seemed to have wanted to put its turn signal on, but usually I would just maneuver myself over into this lane. Now we have one of our first interchanges here where it's going to kind of spin us around and put us on to 295, I believe. These Jersey turnpike, or these Jersey roads can be confusing. I usually drive over in PA. So right now we're going to be looping around. There's always a good amount of congestion here. Oof, a little bit of a slamming on the brakes there. I do have to say, though, that in stop-and-go traffic, full self-driving has been way more comfortable. In the stop-and-go traffic, especially when, you are completely stopped doing, let's say, 5 miles an hour, and then you speed up to 45 miles an hour, and then come to that slowdown of 5 miles an hour, man, that has been very annoying in the past because, obviously, you're slamming on the brakes, you're kind of being pushed forward in your seat. But the cars seem to do a much better job when you're in the stop-and-go traffic to make the actual stopping much more fluid. Man, I remember sometimes when using full self-driving, I would apologize to passengers because of how rough the car would be when stopping and going. But that is definitely something that has been improved here with 12.6. Man, it's just a constant complaint from me about these windshield wipers. Usually I immediately turn them off. I think in one of my videos recently, I actually had a pretty good experience with the automatic wipers, but automatic wipers on Teslas, they've never been good. They're usually completely turned off from me. It sucks because there are some times where I'd love to use the automatic wipers because I need to do a windshield wipe every minute just because of, let's say, mist on the road or, a very light rain. And I actually have to manually continue to hit the button over here. Whereas, for a heavy rainstorm, I'll then just bump it up to the different values, 1, 2, 3, etc. But it is so annoying. The auto wipers are so bad. Now, this is an area where I wish the car was a little bit more aggressive. When you leave this much room, people will just take advantage and continue to get in front of you, kind of like that Acura did up there. If you have enough room and you've got to merge, go for it. Get in front of the car, obviously. But, living here in the Northeast, the car, I think, needs to be just a little bit more aggressive to avoid just being continuously pushed back from cars trying to get in front of you. Now, it's kind of weird because, I don't mind. Obviously, I'm not the one driving. I'm just kind of sitting here. I'm along for the ride, so it's not something that is necessarily directly impacting me. My drive is now made a little bit longer, I guess. But since the car is handling everything, it's kind of hard to complain about it. Now here, this lane is going to continue, but it is going to eventually run out. So the car is going to need to make its way over. Also, I found that the car does a really good job when it's in the left-hand lane of making its passing move and then going back over and jumping into the right-hand lane. So for example, here we have 4 total lanes. It's going to go and make a move over. Is it going to get in front of that Bronco? No, it's going to let the Bronco continue on, which I would have waited as well. So that's a good move. So the car is going to go ahead and jump over. Now, that left-hand lane all the way over there, out of these 4, is going to come to an end. So it's going to turn into actually just 2 or 3 lanes. See, I wouldn't be doing this right now because I know that this lane is going to end. It ends here in about 1.5 miles. And so it's just kind of sitting here in the left-hand lane to just have to merge back over into the right-hand lane. The only way that I'd get over is if there's a tractor trailer or something that I need to get by, but honestly, in this case, I'd probably just stay in that lane. I wonder if it's going to realize that the lane ends or if it's just going to wait to the very end to try and get over. That was one of my big complaints about older versions, like being on 12.5 of full self-driving. When trying to merge, it would wait until the very last second to try to get over, which for a car that is still necessarily learning to drive, the software is still learning to drive, makes it a little bit annoying. So back there we have 4 total lanes, and it severely shrinks down to 3, and then it'll actually bring us down to 2 lanes. So here with the lane ending, you notice there's no turn signal. It just kind of merges over at the last minute. Now in this case, that's fine. It actually had the room to merge over. But if there was somebody directly to my right, it would probably slam on the brakes to get behind them or try to make a maneuver to get in front of them. So while we got lucky in that scenario, it's something that definitely can be annoying. Now, something that I really liked when driving on 12.6.1 was as I was driving on the highway, doing 80, and it was late at night, there was times where I'd come up behind a tractor trailer, and the car, being in the right-hand lane, would make the pass, would stay in the left-hand lane, and once it had enough room, would get back into the right lane. Now, this is something that older versions of full self-driving didn't do. So it would, if you're on like the, more assertive profile, would stay in the left lane and just sit there in the left lane. And even though I'm doing 80, there might be some guy coming that's doing 95 and would get into the right-hand lane past me and get back into the left-hand lane. But it's nice that the car analyzes that there's somebody behind you that obviously might want to drive faster and gets over into that right-hand lane. Now, with the congestion here on this road, pretty much everybody is doing the same speed, so I just anticipate that we're going to stay here in this lane until we finally get onto the Atlanta City Expressway. But I have to say that up until this point, 12.6.3 hasn't jumped out to me as being any better. Now, so far, being on the highway, the car is doing a much better job at staying in the middle. And I think that that's probably the one thing that I was looking out for. I mean, when you look at the actual visualization here, the car was so far on the lane that there would be no white on the screen, like at all. So that is definitely a good problem that I like to see rectified. We only have a small sample size here. I mean, gosh, we've probably been driving on the highway for only, 10 minutes, and we haven't really been doing that fast of speeds, but I haven't seen any glaring issues where the car was hugging that left-hand lane or that left-hand line way too much. Now, we've gotten our speed up to 76 miles an hour. 78 was actually probably our max, but I can say that behind us we've got a Mercedes that is like wanting to pass us. So I'm gonna hit the turn signal to get over here so that I can let the car behind me around. With 12.6.1, it was kind of iffy. Like, there were times it would get out of the way for people, and it actually did it a good amount of the time. So there you can see the car that wanted to pass us is right there. And now it's getting back over into the left lane. So I wish that the car did that for me. Like, I wish that the car analyzed that, hey, there's somebody that really wants to hammer behind me. Why don't we get over, continue in this lane, at the speed that we have, and then get over if we encounter a slowdown. Like in this instance right here, if I was the car, I would get in front of that tractor trailer right there, because even it sees that the car in that lane isn't for another, 0.1 miles, I would say. So in this case, if I'm not going to do the maximum speed of 85, which I do have set to 85 and it's only doing 73, I would probably get over in that instance. Now, it's kind of interesting, like when you look at the release notes from 12.6.1 and 12.6.3, it says that the speed is one of the things that it's worked on. So it's speed profiles, as well as the maximum speed relative to what type of road you're on. And I don't see those changes being made. Like, I see us on a road right now that has a maximum speed of 55 miles an hour. I'm doing 75 miles an hour. Granted, I'm in the left-hand lane. There's nobody in front of me, and there's absolutely nobody behind me. Even though the visualization doesn't show that far behind me, I can tell you that there is absolutely nobody behind me at all. So in this case, I would want the car to get over. I wouldn't want to continue in the passing lane if I'm not going to be passing by people. And also, if I've got my maximum speed set up to 85 miles an hour, I probably want the car to do the maximum speed that I've set. So with Autopilot, the car would be doing 85 and then would slow down when I get to whatever car is in front of me. Now, right now, being on on, what is this? Are we on 295? No, we're on 42. Being on 42, it's really no issue. I mean, I think that 75 is definitely an appropriate speed, but when we get onto the Atlantic City Expressway, and then when we get onto the area where it changes into 3 lanes, I mean, 89 is basically the speed limit there. Everybody is doing 89 miles an hour, so they're just below the threshold of 90 so that they don't get pulled over. And I'm wondering if the car is going to do that, because we're doing 71, the entire right lane is completely open, and I just wish the car would go faster because everybody else on the road is going faster. So, like, merging and speed has kind of been my 2 biggest issues when on the highway. I think merging was probably my biggest issue because it kind of made full self-driving, I don't want to say unusable. This turn is definitely hugging that line a little bit more than I'd like. You can see just how close we are on the line there. The merging is something that I wanted to be addressed like almost immediately. Okay, so now it's finally getting over into the right-hand lane. Yeah, the merging is something that I wanted addressed almost immediately because they kind of made full self-driving a little bit uncomfortable. But now I think speed is almost just preference. So now that we have a speed limit of 65 and we're only doing 69, we're only doing 4 miles an hour over the speed limit, I wonder if the car is going to finally realize, hey, there's absolutely nobody around us. Let's try to speed up. In fact, if anything, it's kind of gone down. I'm going to hit the accelerator here, and I'm going to give it a little bit more speed and see if it pins us at that speed. So I'd like to do 79, honestly. I mean, 79 here would be great. Let's see if it keeps us there. Yeah, it is keeping us there. It's not backing us off 79. And at this speed, it's still doing a good job at keeping us in the middle. All right, now it's starting to slow down a little bit. And it's weird, it slows down as we get to the straight part. So the speed is still something that needs to be worked on. I mean, we definitely need to be going faster than this, especially with a max speed of 85. So look, that's where I'm going to end this video. We've been driving for about 20 minutes doing some neighborhood driving, some interchanges, some highway driving. I would say that 12.6.3 has definitely improved upon the positioning in the lane. That's definitely something that needed to be addressed. But man, this speed is something that I definitely would like to see fixed. I mean, let me give you an example here, right? So I'm going to disengage. I'm going to go and purposely switch back over to auto steer. So now we're just on autopilot. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjust my maximum speed to 85. And the car has no problem picking right up to do 85 miles an hour. So now we're doing 85. When the car up here sees that there's going to be somebody in front of us, it's going to slow down. And if I need to get over, even though it's not going to move over on its own, I could just hit the turn signal because I have full self-driving installed and get over. So to me, like, if I'm now sitting here and I've got 20 miles driving on this road to get off and charge my car, to then get back on and do another 20 miles an hour, or 20 miles, right? So from here, we'll do another 20 and then probably another 25. For me, I'm going to end up saving time by using autopilot and not using full self-driving. So in this case, if I have these long hauls on the highway for a speed purpose, from a speed standpoint, if I want to get where I'm going faster, I'm going to want to use autopilot instead of full self-driving. So I'm sure there's not many people that stuck around to this point in the video, but hopefully at this point, oh man, we're slamming on the brakes here. I don't understand why when there's a car that is merging, and this has happened all the time, when there's a car that is merging onto the highway, and if it's neck and neck with me, or even behind me, it like wants to completely slam on the brakes, when really the logical thing is just to continue driving straight. So now in this case, as I mentioned with autopilot full self-driving, if I want to get to the left-hand lane, I can just go and hit the turn signal. And because I have full self-driving, it gives me the auto lane change, and now I can just continue on at the maximum speed. So let me know what you guys think. There's probably not many people that have watched this full 23 or 24 minute long video to this point, but hopefully if you have, you can let me know in the comments, what do you use? If you're on a long haul trip and if you're driving, do you use full self-driving or autopilot? Leave it down below in the comments, and as always, I will talk to you later.